Thank you for listening to the morning feed. Listener discretion is advised as we do go over the details of ongoing criminal investigations. We do try to do that without being unnecessarily graphic. However, some details can still be rather sensitive. My name is Rona, and I volunteer in the world of criminal investigations and victim advocacy. And today we're talking about the details of a case that happened in 1983 and is still going on today because there are answers that are still needed. And now the public can assist with getting those answers. So I thought we would talk about this a little bit. It's been a little while since we have been able to report on much of anything due to tragedies, health issues, a lot of things going on. But hopefully, if I am given the time to do so, I'm going to update on a lot of other cases as well. I'd like to talk about Doug Harless some more. There's a lot going on with that case. We are officially in the couple days stretch of the anniversary of missing Paula and Brandon Wade. I'd like to also talk about that maybe later this evening. So I appreciate everybody staying with us while we try to carry on and continue reporting for as long as we're given the time to do so. I'm going to share my screen really quickly and show you where you can find this case, first of all. So let's go over to DNA Solves. So this is DNAsolves.com, and you can go over there and see this profile. We also have it linked on our website. I'll share that with you in just a moment. But this is where you can go and help to fund this case. As you can see, this case currently has $1,475 raised. Let's get into what we need to discuss today as far as the details of this case and why we're interested in helping fund this case. So, over 40 years ago, a Mississippi mystery evolved, and it finally now has a realistic chance of being solved 4 decades later. Investigators were initially puzzled by this 1980s murder that appeared to be a prominent local attorney who was found burned in his vehicle. But after further investigation, the case took a lot of wild twists and turns that would leave local residents with a question that would linger for 40 years. That question was, who was the actual victim? So, on May 14th of 1983, news began to spread quickly that a local attorney and former commissioner was found in a nearby county deceased in his vehicle. Madison County law enforcement, that's where he was found, discovered a badly burnt car with a man inside who had been charred beyond recognition. They had no idea who the body was initially. They quickly learned after that the vehicle belonged to Edward Cates. He was a prominent individual in Jackson, Mississippi. But like I said, he was not found in the county that he lived in. He was found a county over in Madison County. Now, Cates had left a note. Edward Cates, the attorney, he had left a note basically saying that, telling his wife that he was headed out. He was going to Madison County for an appointment. And at the time, Cates was dealing with some financial problems. He had attempted to solve those problems through embezzlement, but not everybody knew that at the time. Over $200,000 was embezzled to pay for his personal debts and contributions to maintain the community appearance that he did not want to let go of. It's kind of interesting looking at this case in 2025 and kind of remembering what was important to people at the time. Nowadays, if somebody were to embezzle the equivalent of what would have been $200,000 back then, today's equivalent would be a lot more. However, if you were to do that, the things that people nowadays spend that money on is very different. But back then, your presence in the community and how people saw you and how you were treated because of the things that you took part in and donated to, all of that was a much, much bigger deal than it is today. So when he embezzled this over $200,000, he paid personal debts, and he also paid donations to his church, to the Boy Scouts, his membership fees at the American Legion, his membership fees at a gun club. So one of Cates's shoes were found in the vehicle, and his wife had identified that to be his shoe. There was no way to identify the body. There was extensive charring from the vehicle being set on fire, and the body was missing teeth. It had multiple injuries, leg fractures, broken ribs, broken vertebrae. There was a lot going on with this body that made it very difficult for it to be recognized. If you look on the screen right now, you're going to see an image of Edward Cates. That's what he looked like. Now, Edward Cates was also known by many people in his community due to the various positions that he had held. So at various times, he was an attorney, he was a commissioner, he was a deacon at his church. He had gained the trust of many due to his former service as an Army Reserve colonel and a Korean War veteran. Just days after the discovery of his burnt car and the charred remains inside of his vehicle, he was laid to rest with full military honors at a funeral that was attended by family, friends, local residents, and prominent individuals in the community, including the Jackson, Mississippi mayor at the time. Now, Cates was laid to rest, but the investigation had only begun. As investigators continued to search for answers and find out who burnt the vehicle that Cates was found inside, they found evidence that Cates's wife had received money from a retired major general by the name of Christopher Curtis. Now, Christopher Curtis was all the way over in Lawrenceville, Georgia. So stay with me. This gets interesting here. Investigators in Georgia had more questions after finding that the retired major looked an awful lot like Edward Cates. It quickly became clear that the man who was buried with full military honors was not Cates. And further investigation revealed that Cates had embezzled over $200,000 from a client and then faked his death. Now, Cates was arrested and charged with capital murder and embezzlement. By January of 1984, not even a year after, he entered a plea negotiation, and they dropped the capital murder charge down to manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. The guilty plea did not include any information about the remains that were found in his vehicle, unfortunately. Cates refused to provide any information about who he had murdered and used as a body double. Investigators were never able to connect the victim to any known missing individuals or local residents. And in 1990, Cates died in prison without ever revealing any information about the victim. And to this day, the individual who was murdered by Cates remains unnamed. Now, investigators were unsure if they would ever learn who the victim was until now. Advancements in science and DNA forensics have provided a new path in order to solve the final missing piece of this Jackson, Mississippi mystery. Investigators have teamed up with the DNA superheroes over in Texas at Othram Labs to identify the victim that was found in the vehicle in 1983. Now, the DNA professionals at Othram Labs have a website, DNA Solves, It allows the public to assist them in clearing the backlog of past cases by donating to these cases in order to test the DNA, do investigative genealogy, whatever needs to be done to bring an end to an unsolved case and provide answers to the family, and in some cases just giving a victim their name back. So these new scientific methods have allowed Othram Labs to collect DNA, track down the source of that DNA through forensic genetic genealogy. A lot of things can be done. And that is what they're proposing to do on this case. And here on our website, you can see we're going to keep a timeline of where the funding is at right now. It's at $1,475 as of today, October 13th. We'll keep updating that, and we'll share it on our social media as well so that people can kind of stay in touch with what's happening. Now, if you would like to assist in the final steps of this, this 4-decade-old unsolved mystery, you can help give the victim their name back and give the community answers by donating to this fund over at DNA Solves. If we go back over to their website, you see they have to have a total of $7,500 in order to accomplish this goal to test this DNA on this victim. They're working with the Rankin County Coroner's Office, Madison County, Mississippi, and Othram. They're all working together in order to get this done. But they need the public's help in order to raise the money to do that. So let's do what we can to help out and raise some money. Let's put a little bit of money towards this for them so that hopefully we can reach that $7,500 as quickly as possible and help solve this. I'm very interested in finding out who the victim was in this case. I'm very interested in hopefully giving their family answers and the community as well. This is a case that is still talked about in Jackson, Mississippi on a regular basis. So I really appreciate everybody listening and giving your time to this. And if you're able to give your money as well, then that's also greatly appreciated. And I'm sure that the family of this individual will be very glad to know what happened to their family member. We do not know if this is a person who's ever been reported missing. We have no idea where Edward Cates found this person in order to do this in the first place. There's also a lot of stories out there that of locals who talk about when they heard this happen and the whole fiasco that ensued at the time, and how Cates was treated very differently from other inmates and other prisoners. So it's definitely a story that has stayed with a lot of people, and I would even imagine that it's a story that probably prompted some changes in their system overall, and how people rallied for equal treatment. So again, if you'd like to go over there and donate, that would be greatly appreciated. And we will keep you informed on how the fund is coming along, how much is being raised. And then once we have it fully funded, we'll let you know. Once we see that they have gotten all the money needed to run the DNA, and then we will patiently wait for that to happen and see what the answers are.